Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Welcome to our special virtual conversation, and thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. Before we formally begin, I just have a few housekeeping items. So you might notice that your microphones will be muted for this session. So just want to make sure we're preventing background noise and allow everyone to focus on our guest speakers. There will be an opportunity to submit questions for a Q&A portion. And you can do that using the chat feature. So you'll find the chat function at the bottom of your screen on one of your menu items. So feel free to submit any questions that you may have. We will endeavor to address as many questions as possible, time permitting, towards the end of the session. So feel free to submit your questions there. And finally, please be aware that this session is being recorded. So we're going to get going here. So greetings, everyone. My name is Lara Mussell Savage, and I am one of the vice chairs of the BC Sports Hall of Fame. I'm also a member of the Squaw First Nation out in Stalo Territory in Chilliwack, and I'm also director of sport with iSpark. It's a real pleasure to be joining as a host this evening with the support of CEO Nicholas Cartmel as well, a part of this event. I would like to take this moment to acknowledge that the hosting of tonight's special conversation is taking place on the traditional, shared, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, taking place right inside BC Sports Hall of Fame and Museum in the Indigenous Sport Gallery. And additionally, I am joining you today from the traditional territory of the Squaw First Nation, members of the Pult tribes out in Stalo Territory in Chilliwack. So on behalf of the BC Sports Hall of Fame and Museum and its partners, I'm excited to welcome all of you to this edition of the Inspiring the Future virtual conversation focused on Terry Fox. So 2020 marks an interesting milestone with the 40th anniversary of Terry's incredible journey known as the Marathon of Hope. So Terry's dream to run a marathon a day across Canada while raising $1 for every Canadian to benefit cancer research forever changed our country and our lives in so many ways. Terry is known to many as an athlete, a humanitarian, a Canadian icon, and a hero, but he also first was a son and a brother and a friend. And we're very lucky to have with us tonight members of Terry's family, his brother Darrell Fox and niece Alex Fox. Darrell and Alex, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hello.
Oh, pleasure to be here, Lara. We're really excited and thankful to represent the family of Terry Fox.
Fantastic. Now, Darrell, you obviously grew up. Right now, we are all facing such strange and challenging times for many people in BC and around the world in the midst of this pandemic. When we look at Terry, we see him as an incredible example of strength against the backdrop of extreme adversity. Can you tell us more about what you saw in Terry growing up and through the Marathon of Hope? And from where did he draw on his incredible strength?
Well, we missed the first part of the entry to the question, Lara, but I think I could deduce where you're going with this. You know, yes, I was fortunate to be a younger brother. I'm 4 years younger than Terry, so we were able to recognize that Terry had certain qualities that we would later become very much aware of as Canadians and people around the world. But when we share the Terry Fox story, we always start by saying that Terry was a pretty average individual. He was a very average athlete. He was a very average student. He was just basically, in general, a very average person, with the exception of one quality. And that was that he had this never give up attitude. He always tried his very best. The story that we always like to share about Terry was when, to show his commitment to working hard, was when he tried out for the football team. After the very first practice, McGill came up to Terry and said, "Terry, give it up. You will never make my team. You have absolutely no talent for the game of basketball whatsoever. I think you should try wrestling." Well, I can assure you, if Coach McGill, who would a few years later become my coach of basketball, had shared those words of wisdom, I would have given up. But Coach McGill knew that Terry had the type of personality that would respond to a challenge, and that's exactly what Terry did. The very next morning, he got up an hour early for school to go to the gym to practice basketball. As soon as the school day ended, he was out playing basketball. He practiced and he practiced and he practiced. Guess what? He made the team. He didn't play a minute in any preseason or regular season game that first year of grade A basketball, but he made the team, and he learned a very valuable lesson during that period to do not believe what anyone says about you, but believe in yourself, and anything is possible if you try.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, and like you said, with the effect on Canada, I mean, Terry is woven into the fabric of Canadian society and culture. I mean, there's schools named after him, streets named after him, even a mountain here in BC named after him, monuments, postage stamps and coins. And I think in many ways, Canadians, like, we feel like we know Terry really well and his story. But Darrell, with you and his relationship with him from a brother's point of view, can you tell us a little bit more about like Terry as a person and where his core values came from?
Well, I'd like to think that they were handed down. You know, we came from a middle class family. Mom and dad, you know, installed values in us about working hard, about never giving up, about fending for yourself. We were never given much during the early years of growing up. Oh, sorry. we had to work for everything. So we appreciated that hard work was rewarded, and I think that's a value that was installed in Terry from a very young age. He always had to work. I remember how you know, for spending money we would pick blueberries, and I despised it, and I would have to go to get up early with Terry and much older brother Fred and much uglier brother Fred. Oh, this is being recorded. Oh no, I might be in trouble there. And we would we'd get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was the last thing on earth I wanted to do was to go pick blueberries during the summer months. I wanted to sleep in and relax, but no, I had to follow Fred and Terry, and we went and we picked berries for 7 hours a day, and at the end of the day we had $3.25. But we learned again the value of working hard, and that you are rewarded. And I think you know, I have a lot to thank in terms of my mom and dad for installing those values, and they've, I think, remained with us for all our lives. And obviously Terry took it to another level with what he did with the Marathon of Hope. But I think it really, and maybe we'll be getting to this a little later, it was really being diagnosed with cancer at a very young age that changed Terry in a very positive way. He would say, you know, that he was in a strange way when he was telling his story about his experiences with cancer, was that he was almost glad that he was diagnosed with the disease, because it taught him to have a purpose in life. It's okay to achieve goals, personal goals, but he realized how important it was by seeing the suffering of others, about adding something else to his life, and that was giving back and helping other people. And certainly cancer was something that really awoken him to the need to give back.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that legacy, I mean, with acknowledging that it's the 40th anniversary of the Marathon of Hope, and then that the Terry Fox Foundation and the Research Institute, there's so many parts of that legacy. Can you give us a glimpse into some of the things that are going to be happening or being done this year to commemorate that anniversary?
Well, it's not what we expected, Lara. Obviously, in terms of a 40th celebration, I mean, what Terry did in 1980, what people talk about is the fact that he brought people together. We come together every year for the annual Terry Fox Run. That is our event, and we're not able to do that this year. So it is an extreme challenging time for us because we generate 90% of our revenue through the annual Terry Fox Run. Mm-hmm. But there will be a run. It will be a virtual run this year. One day your way is the theme we're going with. So we're encouraging, inviting people to get out there and and participate and fundraise as they normally would. It's just that they won't be able to come together at one of the over 800 Terry Fox run sites that we would normally have across the country. But there have been other ways that we've been able to celebrate the 40th anniversary. We have partnered with Adidas Canada, who was there in 1980 and supported Terry by sending him 26 pairs of shoes. And they're there again this year, and we've launched, and Alex could model one of the vintage T-shirts that was released earlier this year. All proceeds from the sale of merchandise from the T-shirts and also Terry's original shoe, the Orion, are going to the Terry Fox Foundation, and we have already raised over $500,000 for the Terry Fox Foundation through this activity, and we hope to get close. Adida's goal is to raise over $1 million. We've also launched our releasing 2 Terry Fox books, and it's been actually 15 years since there's been a Terry Fox book. We have to go back to the 25th anniversary in 2005, and just 2 days ago, or yesterday, just yesterday actually, was the release of Terry Fox and Me, a children's book by Penguin Canada, and it features. I mean, I was there with Terry for 3 months, and for me it was a get out of high school card. I was really excited by that, but Doug Allward was Terry's close friend and high school companion, and he was there from the very beginning. And I've always said that if you looked up the definition of friendship or friend in the dictionary, Doug Allward should be the example. Sorry, I get emotional when I talk. Excuse me, I talk about Doug because we tend to focus on Terry, which I'm biased. I think we should, but I think Doug also played an incredible role and sacrificed a year of his life to be there with Terry for the very beginning. So I'm really excited that this book, children's book, is out there, and it's been difficult to get Doug to come along with it from the very beginning since we started working on it over a year ago. He has Terry's qualities and being very humble, and I'm just so happy that it's out there and we'll be able to recognize Doug as he deserves to be. And the other book that we're working on again with Penguin is entitled Forever Terry. And it is comprised of 40 high-profile Canadians, athletes, personalities, and also what we call Terry Foxers. Those have been involved in supporting the Terry Fox Foundation for many years, and in fact, in many cases, since the very beginning. And that book will be published and released on September 1st. So we're very excited. It's been so much fun working on that and working. I mean, the problem we had is everybody kept saying yes. So we actually, the goal was 40 letters. We actually ended up with 44 letters. So we've added an intro, a forward, an epilogue, just to accommodate the responses we received. And I'm not going to be able to pick a favorite out of the letters that were submitted. They're all incredible and moving and offer something unique in each and every letter. And look forward to sharing that with all Canadians at the end of the month.
Yeah, that's great. I can't wait to check out those books. In talking about Doug and just the importance of family and friends, like Alex, I want to turn to you for a moment. I mean, as a member of the Fox family, I mean, you're a big part of supporting the annual Terry Fox runs that take place all over the globe, and I've participated in many over the years in Chilliwack, the Terry Fox runs in Chilliwack. For example, Alex, you were a part of Aurelia's Terry Fox run just this last September, and Terry made a stop in Aurelia in 1980 as part of his Marathon of Hope. The run takes place at the park that's at Terry Fox Circle. I mean, there's just so much about this legacy that you've grown up in as a member of this family. So what has it been like for you to grow up so closely connected to Terry's legacies, and what does his mission mean to you, Alex?
It's been a journey. I feel so grateful and so humbled to have grown up in this family and getting to learn from our family and getting to learn from Terry's story. And I feel like sometimes, you know, like I do come from a bit of a different perspective in that I never met Terry. I've just grown up learning about him, and I guess a lot of kids in school these days can relate to that. And it's been amazing. Like I feel like when I was younger, I couldn't really comprehend what exactly Terry did. Like I remember, you know, hearing about his story through my dad, through my grandparents, and, you know, how he tried to run across Canada on an artificial lake. And I don't feel like it was until I got a little bit older in my teen years that it really hit me, and I was like, wow, like this was my uncle. Like it and my passion has just grown and grown, and it's made me want to get more involved and want to continue his legacy. And so, yeah, like you were saying, last year I got to speak in Aurelia at the Terry Fox Run, and that was actually my first year speaking at runs, and I've always just been so blown away at the support and the love in the air when you get together at these Terry Fox Runs. Everyone out there for a common goal, everyone wanting to raise money and continue Terry's legacy and wanting to find a cure for cancer. And I think that's what brings us all together. And we thank Terry for that every day. We thank him for that every year. And yeah, it's just been an incredible experience. And I feel like, although, you know, like many of us, we never got the opportunity to meet Terry, but he inspires us in so many ways. And those values you were talking about, that humility, is something I hold on to so much, because, you know, Terry, he didn't do what he did for the fame. He didn't do it for the recognition. Like, he didn't do it out of selfishness. He did it to raise money for cancer research and to find a cure for cancer. And it's just, even in this pandemic we're going through today, it just kind of reminds us that, you know, we see our neighbors need some toilet paper or something, right? And we're not gonna, you know, help our neighbors for their recognition. We're gonna help our neighbors because it's the right thing to do, and not for the recognition, not for the fame, not to, you know, make money off of hand sanitizer and reselling stuff to make a profit. We're not doing it for that. And I think it just brings us back to Terry's mission and to Terry's values, is to do things from your heart and to do things for others without wanting something in return. And yeah, that's really how I've grown up, and it inspires me every day, and it makes me want to give back so much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alex. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. So Darrell or Alex, like, what message do you think Terry would share about resilience in these times that we're facing right now? I mean, Alex, you touched upon that, like just that humility and just the giving back. What do you think Terry would be telling us today?
Go ahead.
I think, like, we think about the quotes, the messages he left us with, and to never give up on your dreams and to try to help others. And I feel like that's what we can carry with us today as we're going through these challenges in the world right now, is that we're going to get through this. It's hard, it's tough. We're having to change the way we do things, just like Terry had to, you know, accommodate to an artificial leg. He had to accommodate to all these changes in his life. And I feel like we can bring those lessons with us today, and we can accommodate in ways that will push us forward to help others and to make a difference, and living with a purpose, not just to do things for ourselves, but to do things for others. And Yeah, do you want to add to that?
I think that was, that was a good answer, Alex. I don't think I could add more other than to say it does speak to what Terry, I mean, this is a prime opportunity for us to come together to help others instead of thinking selfishly of ourselves, which is exactly what Alex's point is that every decision we make in terms of social distancing could affect other people. And I think that's why, you know, Terry's messaging would go over very well right now in this time. And I'm pretty proud of how this province has been leading the way in terms of how we've been responding to the challenges. We're up against it a little bit recently because we've relaxed, but I've been pretty proud to see how PCers are responding and thinking of others. I mean, it's so easy to be selfish and only think of what you want, and because it won't affect you, especially if you're a younger person like myself. Like we don't. Are you? Is there a grin there about that? but we have to think of other people, and that's all Terry thought of. I mean, he never thought of himself. I mean, that's what, Lara, you're mentioning, all the, you know, the tributes and recognition that exists across the country, and it continues to happen. We're not pushing for that because we know Terry wouldn't want that. I mean, there's a movement now about, you know, the new bill, you know, Terry's image being proposed for it, and Terry wouldn't want that. He would want you to give $10, but he wouldn't want his image on the you know, the bill itself. And that was what I remember, which was so striking about the Marathon of Hope and being with Terry, and you know, Alex has talked about the humility, and I have talked about that too. That's what I admired so much about Terry. You know, especially as momentum built for the Marathon of Hope, and fame and fortune was available every day and offered to Terry every day, he never changed. He remained so grounded on why he was running across the country, and that's what I will always admire about him. And we see how that affects, you know, sports athletes, and you know, the movie industry and entertainers, and how they have changed, and they forget where they came from. Terry never changed throughout the Marathon of Hope, and that's what I always admired about him. And I think this is an opportunity, as we're going through this right now, this moment in time, to park what would be best for us to help other people. And I'm pretty proud of how this province has responded to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And you talk about the piece of you know, the humility and his values, and how important it was for him to keep it centered around that you know, the not wanting the accolades and the sponsorship. It really was about like the giving back. I want to take that and shift focus a little bit to acknowledge your family having gone through a journey of deeper discovery with your own family tree, and learning more about your Gladue family roots and connection to the Red River settlement out of Manitoba. So Darrell, I was there at the 2017 North American Indigenous Games. I was there with Team BC. And you were a part of the closing ceremony and shared a video with the thousands of Indigenous youth that were there competing in those games to tell the story of your family's Métis family history. So can you share with us a little bit more about your family's journey in learning about your Métis family history, and why it was important to you to share that with that audience?
Well, if I had a chance to respond to your earlier question about values and where they originated from, you know, I think I would speak to our heritage. You know, as you become older and dated, as I am, you appreciate. I wish I had a greater appreciation when I was younger of my history, but I always had. I want to know now where we came from, and why we're here, and where those values originated. And I've always, it makes sense now that there is an Indigenous history to us, because we were buffalo hunters, you know, generations ago, and we were wandering the earth. So it kind of speaks to Terry's adventuresome self to want to run across the country and do it to help other people. And And it has been, and Alex spoke to this too, and it's been a bit of a journey. And I relate it, the line comes really from my mom's side, and my grandma, Gladue, Marion Gladue, who her grandparents were from the Red River Valley. And she was an integral part of our family, a huge part of our family. She, with the number of grandchildren and great-grandchildren that were born on that side, the work side of the family, she attended every funeral, every wedding. She was there all the time. She was out when Terry was first diagnosed with cancer. Terry died on her birthday. And I always felt that there's some real deep connection with, and now I know why, because I mean, I didn't know that of our Métis heritage growing up, because she was uncomfortable speaking about it. She was raised on a reserve in North Dakota, Turtle Mountain, and she was just not comfortable speaking about it because of it, and it was normal for that time because of the embarrassment felt by it. And she shared that messaging with her children. And it's really unfortunate, but I understand it. And so now to be able to absorb this history that and again, it's a journey where I feel I'm only at the beginning of exploring it. It's been just incredibly valuable. And to know where we came from, and it helps explain Terry's story that much more, I think.
Yeah, I can add to that too, like what you were saying, and like the values that Terry had and the values we had growing up, how like it relates so much to the Indigenous culture, and we didn't even know it for so many years. Like I feel like even for me, like growing up, I've always been spiritual. I've always felt connected to the land. And, when I'm outside in nature, that's my happy place. And I've always felt spiritual, where I can feel the trees, I can feel the earth around me. And when we discovered our Métis history, like everything started making sense. And too, like the same values that the Indigenous culture carries, Terry carried too. And even though he didn't know of his ancestry, it was in him. It was always in him, and it shows. And it just everything has come full circle really with us discovering this. And yeah, it's an incredible journey and experience. And
if I could add, I just want to add one more story about my grandma, because she was an incredible part of my life, and as I've shared earlier, our whole family's life. She passed away on the day after 9/11, and as you can imagine, that was obviously September of 2001, and we had a Terry Fox run coming up that weekend. So we were obviously of course we were concerned about what was happening, down south, but we're also had concern with respect to the run as well that weekend. And it was amazing that we would, my grandma lived in Melita, Manitoba, a very small town south of Brandon, and that we were there on the Terry Fox run for her funeral. It just seemed like it was the right place to be, and that's where we were meant to be, to celebrate her life. But it also was another connection, I think, to Terry, and it showed the bond. And whenever I don't travel as much as I used to, but whenever in the early years when I was traveling a lot, where I would, whenever I had to be in Winnipeg, I always made sure I added an extra day so I could go see my grandma. It was sometimes challenging because she smoked like a chimney in her condo, and I was worth but it was worth every minute to spend some time with her. And I just felt the need to absorb information from her because of her wisdom from so many years of living. And again, those values of working hard, of giving unconditionally, they came from my grandma. So I just would like that opportunity to share that story as well. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. On that, on the piece of that identity and knowing more about who you are and where you come from. So the BC Sports Hall of Fame and its partners are in the process of developing a series of lesson plans connected to the athletes and the stories featured within the Indigenous Sport Gallery where you are sitting now. The first set of lesson plans is centered around Terry, as you well know, as we've been working with your family on the lesson plan. So that lesson plan is about his story, but also about your family's Métis ancestry, with one of the lessons focusing specifically on identity and helping kids feel that pride and discovering more about who they are and where they come from. So share with us what makes you excited about these coming lesson plans that will be launched this September.
We're really excited about it. Yeah, like you said, we're here in the Indigenous Sport Gallery, and just walking through here, and you can just feel the stories, you can feel the culture. And we're so excited about the Indigenous Sport Gallery lesson plan on Terry Fox, because it's something that is now recognizing Terry as a Métis and also a Métis athlete. And I feel like a big learning in there too is that because, you know, Terry didn't know of his ancestry, we didn't know of our ancestry, that I think that can show kids in the school, like growing up, that it's okay not to know where you come from. It's okay. Some people find out early in life, some people find out later in life. And I feel like this lesson plan, by diving more into Terry's Métis ancestry, it can show and it can inspire kids to learn more about their own culture and let them know that it's okay if you don't have all the answers. It's a journey, and yeah, and I think that's the part that is so exciting about it is, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So just for the rest of our audience, you know, the lesson plans are set to launch this September, and we're just working with the group, the committee that's all behind it has teachers reviewing it, and hopefully we'll be in session in September where teachers can actually start implementing the lesson. But we're really excited about the series of lesson plans will be connected back to the gallery. So I want to get back to Terry in terms of like little known facts. So as I said before, I know so many Canadians feel like we all know Terry and we know his story, but can you share with us a little known fact about Terry, like whether it's like what was his favorite food or what were the sort of things?
Lost you again.
To share? We'd love to hear it.
I lost a little bit of that again. Well, I think we don't hide anything back about the Terry Fox story. I mean, what we don't want to position Terry as being perfect, because he was not. He was not a perfect person. He had his moments. He had a temper. I was able to get under his skin at times. In fact, if you want to hear unknown stories, I used to call him Madman because he would get so irritated. And I was younger than him, but I was always a little bit quicker than him. So I always felt that I could outrun him. He'll never catch me. So he learned to control, you know, his personality, as we all do, I think, or try to do over time. But Terry wasn't perfect. And when we talk about Terry, when we visit schools, there are over 8,000 schools that host Terry Fox runs every year. that's how we start the story. Is Terry? Don't put Terry on a pedestal. He wouldn't want to be there, and he didn't deserve to be there. He was not perfect, as I shared to begin. He was a very average person, but look what he was able to achieve through hard work and determination. And we're all capable of setting impressive goals and reaching them through hard work and determination. And that's what we like to share about Terry, is that don't wait. And this is one of the story Terry would share. Don't wait until something unfortunate happens to you like I did. I mean, I waited till I was diagnosed with cancer. I had to you know, see suffering of others, and especially children dying of cancer, to want to make a difference, to want to give back, to have a purpose in life. Don't make that mistake. You have to start now, and you can do it now. And I think that's an important message to be sharing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My question was, if you missed some of it, yes, it was definitely about those little known facts, but just what were the kinds of things that made him laugh? You know, he was so determined and had such a focus, but what were those small moments and the kinds of things that would bring that joy to and warmth to his heart that you would see in those maybe more private or personal moments? What sort of things brought joy or laughter to Terry?
Well, Terry, I mean, if those of us who know him or remember him from 1980 and remember the Marathon of Hope, there are so many images of Terry with that big smile. Like he could smile with the best of them, and he had a wicked sense of humor, and he loved to laugh. And I think that was, I think, probably handed down more from Dad than Mom. But he had a great sense of humor, and one of the reasons why I was able to get out of school early and join the Marathon of Hope, because I had a sense of humor at that time as well. I've lost it since, so if you find it, let me know and return it. But I was able to make Terry laugh on occasion, and Terry was able to make me laugh, and I think that was so critical to the Marathon of Hope, because most of it was extremely stressful and physical and emotional, and he needed the moments when he could finally relax, to really relax and to smile and to laugh. And it was usually at the expense of others, like restaurant owners that gave us free food, and we would simply throw it across at each other. And you know, they didn't really appreciate the fact that they're giving us food and then we're just throwing it away. And at OPP, provincial police officers in Ontario, it was constant. It was Steve Martin-like humor that worked for us and still works to this day, right, Alex? Like, you know, I won't do anything right now.
Yeah, he has Grandpa Fox's humor for sure.
But Terry, again, Terry was someone who was quick to laughter, and we enjoyed many moments of the Marathon of Hope, as difficult and as challenging and as stressful as I shared earlier. It was. We also were able to relax, and we took full advantage of those opportunities.
That's great. I know we're getting close to, we've got about five or 6 minutes remaining, and do want to offer an opportunity for anyone in the audience who may have questions. So one of the first questions that have been entered is there going to be another order available of the Adidas shoe and t-shirt is wearing tonight? And also, where are the books being sold? And thank you to both of you on behalf of the BC Sports Hall of Fame Board of Directors, from Joni McMaster. So there's a couple of pieces there about the products and the books.
Okay, well, yes, there will be an opportunity to order more of the Orion shoe. Yes, I mean Adidas has been incredibly generous, and they've been understanding too. And you know, we want to be able to satisfy the market. We want every Terry Foxer to get a pair of shoes, so that will happen. So there'll be shoes until everyone has them. That is our commitment. I think our next release date is September 1st. That will be when the next merchandise items will be released. I'm not sure. I don't think the Orion will be released at that time, but there will be another release of the shoe and merchandise. And in terms of the book itself, you'll find it anywhere. Amazon, any bookstore. The children's book is available now. At the end of August, the Forever Terry book will be available in any bookstore and available online, and also through Penguin as well.
Great. I don't see any more questions in the chat, but wonder if, Nicholas, if we could open up the microphone for anyone that may have a question they'd like to just blurt out. So I know we've got a number of guests here: Marvin, Elise, Carolyn, Brenda, many guests here, Barb. Just wonder if any of you have any questions. If Nicholas, if you could open up the mics.
I have a question. I'm Carolyn from Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up in Ottawa. I saw you in 1980 come through Ottawa. I actually met you, Darrell. I think I have your autograph. I've got to dig it up, but I think I still have it.
It's not worth very much.
Anyways, Terry was a huge influence to me as a child and continues to be. I'm still a big runner at 51. So we lived in Ottawa. So you see the statue behind me, and we were in Newfoundland last summer, and we went to the statue there. How many other statues are in Canada? Do you know in total?
I should know. I think there are 9, and I'm counting Doug Coblin's work outside of BC Place as 1, but I think there are 9 statues in total.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Yes.
Thank you, Carolyn. Anyone else like to jump in? No other questions? Then I'd like to invite Alex and Darrell just to finish off with any final remarks or stories that you'd like to share before we wrap up tonight. Any messaging that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I would like to say just one thing. So I want to thank the BC Sports Hall of Fame for arranging this. We enjoy. It's not a partnership; it's a relationship. It's a friendship, and we've had this relationship for approaching 30 years. We value it, and we value it because, and this is, I mean, always the way we think is we're always thinking, what would Terry want, and what would he be happy with, and one of the things that he most appreciated was, and despite all we said earlier about not wanting recognition, he did appreciate the fact that he was considered an athlete. I mean, there was no standard. You couldn't compare what Terry was doing to any other. He wasn't in a race. He didn't play for a team. But what he did was certainly athletic and physical, and I witnessed it. And that's one of the things that will obviously be with me and make me extremely emotional every time I think about what he accomplished every day, physically and emotionally, running close to a marathon every day. So I just want to acknowledge the BC Sports Hall of Fame for recognizing Terry's athleticism, because I think it was real. I don't have words to describe what Terry accomplished in 1980 because they don't exist. And that's what always keeps me moving forward, continuing on, because he will always humble me with his commitment to do something that many thought was impossible, and I think was impossible, but he did show us that the impossible is indeed possible. And I don't think that'll ever fade. And one of the things that I value as a family member is that Mom and Dad invited us to be part of it. They didn't push this on us. We came to it at our own speed, at our own time, and now we're in the process of, as they hand it off to us, we're handing off to the next generation. And there are 9 grandchildren of Betty and Raleigh Fox. 5 of them are directly involved as members of the 3 Terry Fox identities. And I'm happy that that baton is being passed to the next generation, as it is every year through the annual Terry Fox Run, with students that participate and are carrying on the messaging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would like to thank you for those remarks, Darrell. And to finish, I'd like to just acknowledge the two of you and the amazing family and the legacy that your family has. I mean, Terry, as you said, he's had his values come from his roots and his amazing background and his upbringing, and parents and family and friends that supported and surrounded him. And so just very much appreciating you joining us today. And thank you all to the attendees who joined us as well for this conversation. We hope you've all enjoyed this session.